But first of all, I think I'll just welcome you all here, and as a regular of these forums, it's a real pleasure for me to be inviting you all here to my hometown. The Liverpool has recently, and particularly relevant, I feel, to be hosting an event of this nature. Liverpool has recently been designated a World Heritage City. It's, some of you may know from the posters around, next year it becomes European Capital of Culture. And in the application and proposal for that status, it was designated a world in one city. And I think we can say with now 29 countries represented here this morning, we are certainly today a world in one city. It is a very important time, I think, for the development of online dispute resolution. The world is not only warming up, allegedly, but also getting a lot smaller. I mean, last week I saw newspaper articles talking about being able to fly from the UK to America for around £7 in the near future. Maybe you have to order rather quickly, but certainly a lot of people will know that you can fly to Eastern Europe, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland for a lot less these days than it takes to get down to London. So people are travelling a lot more, and of course they're doing business cross-border a lot more than they used to. They're taking employment across borders, and of course relationships are developing. But nevertheless, of course, in any sort of business, disputes, problems, complaints, issues will always arise. And of course the old legal jurisdictions and the boundaries, they still remain. So perhaps more than ever is the need to develop methods and systems for resolving conflict and dispute outside of strict legal jurisdictions. Although, as you'll hear over the next 2 days, this subject does very much include the developments within the court systems themselves. The UK, and presume like many countries, has seen a growing development of complaints and standing up for one's rights and what have you. And what we're finding here, certainly, more and more people are doing so with their own representation, without legal representation. There's various reasons for that in this country. We're coming well advanced in what some would say, and I would say, as an objective and policy to very much put in the background the legal aid system for publicly funding parties and people to in-court proceedings and advice. That's being very much reduced. People are having to be represented but are not being represented more and more. And indeed, we've had recently a phenomenon in this country where a journalist has been successfully encouraging millions, literally millions of people, to take action against their banks for what's said to be unlawful bank charges, all unrepresented. So I think the point against this background, even more so, a need to develop dispute resolution solutions that will help and assist with the inevitable restrictions and difficulties of court proceedings, what have you. As you'll hear over the next couple of days, the subject is very broad. You only have to look at the program that you've got there, and it's really more generally about applying all the new technologies to the development of dispute resolution within and without the court process, and also within traditional methods. Of course, we have very well developed methods, and fast developing in this country, of alternative dispute resolution. Online, and most of that, of course, involves face-to-face contact. Online technology widens that market to people who can't get together, around the table together, but also adds value and facilities to that traditional process to advance it. I think Liverpool is a very appropriate venue to be discussing this subject for a number of reasons. Obviously, it has a lot of benefit over beyond for people trading internationally, and international trade has been at the heart both of Liverpool's birth and development. For years, until the 1960s, it was the UK's premier seaport, and servicing the growth of the import-export industry. And this has come, however, at a price of dispute historically, both commercial disputes and also in the field of human rights, which is an issue covered in one of the themes of the conference. In the field of commercial disputes, we've seen in Liverpool, within the cotton industry, develop what's called the Liverpool Cotton Rules, the Liverpool Rules, from the Liverpool Cotton Association, now called the International Cotton Association, for resolving outside of courts disputes between cotton traders around the world. And they, I understand, still rule around 60% of the disputes in the cotton industry. So Liverpool has quite a history at helping to develop and provide dispute resolution system. As to human rights conflicts, well, you should be aware, I'm sure, as you look around Liverpool, and this year, by the way, is its 800th birthday. It was 800 years ago. Well, that I mean, it was given a charter, royal charter by King John, and developed into the city that it is today. But much of the wealth that you see around this city comes really on the back of the slavery, of the slave trade that historically has built up this particular city and a number of other cities around this country. Liverpool was very predominant in that respect. Boats would sail from the city regularly to West Africa, and slaves were bought and taken to America, to the primarily southern states, where cotton was collected by people who'd been taken over on boats on earlier journeys and brought back to Liverpool and sold into the market and the cotton mills that were developed in Lancashire, and that trade carried on. That was considered an area where ordinary working people would, and professional business people would invest in, much as today, and it was considered for a while, an acceptable form of trade. But of course, it inevitably developed huge areas of disputes. In those days, I would imagine it was very much like the rush for people to invest in apartments to let out that we're seeing developing all these high-rise blocks around the city and other cities. So in other words, it was then considered 200 years ago, it was finally abolished and finally banned after a lot of campaign. But what I'm saying really is that this city has seen its conflict and actually eventually, a couple of years ago, came to exercise that very appropriate element in dispute resolution of being able to issue a formal apology for that dreadful history. As to peace building generally, Liverpool has also been a welcoming foster parent from people all around the world. From my own grandparents in the turn of the century fleeing the various pogroms in Eastern Europe to the West Indian Windrush immigrants, and in fact Liverpool also is the home to Europe's first Chinese community. I'm very happy to welcome today a number of delegates who have come here from China. No reference to, perhaps finally couldn't ignore how the cross-fertilization of this trade, and particularly between merchant seamen travelling between Liverpool and New York in the US, has led to, in the 60s, Liverpool becoming quite a capital centre in the world for music. And it was Paul McCartney who wrote the conciliatory elements of what we call the first family dispute resolution song, We Can Work It Out, urging his then partner, Jane Asher, to try to see it my way. And I'm not sure if it's in Heather's collection today, but if, and also of course if ODR is about resolving disputes across borders, then it was John Lennon who told us how we can all avoid conflict by just imagining that there weren't anything like countries. But of course the internet does have a tremendous benefit in helping us to actually all live our lives almost as if there was no boundaries and countries. And I think seeing you all here today to come and talk about this one subject is very heartening. I think that the one thought I would like to leave with those who are new to this subject is perhaps not to box it too much into some sort of geeky IT thing to do with people trading on the internet. It is as broad as you can make it, and as I said before, the application to technology. Finally, very, very recently in this country, we've had the appointment of the first court-appointed mediator, James Rustage, who sadly, fortunately, we wanted to speak here today, but the time was not good and he's away on a holiday. But James has recently reported, he started to undertake court face mediation in traditional ways, or the ways that he wanted. He took it upon himself to start using email and online technologies, and he found and reported that he was achieving greater success with the online technologies, and that's perhaps heartening today. One announcement perhaps I'm finally pleased to make today is that actually the leading up to this conference and the organising of it, and discussions that we have had between all the parties involved in helping it, including the local ICT organisation, you see there one of the sponsors, the Mersey Partnership, CITDR, Professor Cash is here, who with Daiwan Choi of the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, really responsible for creating this forum, that we've agreed to create in Liverpool a European hub for online dispute resolution. And what that essentially means that all the various parties, technology, lawyers, mediators, will be working together to develop and create a knowledge base here and help develop new solutions for this. I think it is appropriate for Liverpool. Liverpool, some of you may know, more recent years gained the tag of Compost City because of the growth in claims, and some would say that this referred purely to an honourable and rugged determination to stand up for one's rights. Others, notably in the insurance industry, might put it more down to an unhealthy greed to collect as much as they can. But Liverpool has had a history of challenge and disputes, even politically. Recent administrations locally have challenged government and even challenged their own political parties so much as they were actually thrown out of it. And so I think creating a European hub here would be extremely useful to help turn that image from one of a city of complaint and challenge into one of resolving conflicts. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to invite you here to Liverpool for this conference.